Hello and welcome to another segment of Scan's Career Corner, co-sponsored by the Greater Long Branch Chamber of Commerce. This segment we're going to cover real estate. Now I'm not talking about the stuff that you live on, but the people who help get you to live on real estate. And we have here today a friend of mine, Bob Goodman, who's actually, his name's a little different. We'll find out more about how he came about with that. But he's going to talk about the real estate business, salesmen, brokers, and dealers, I guess, if you want to call it that. Welcome, Bob.
Welcome, Len. Thanks for inviting me to the show.
We're really pleased that you're here because everybody lives someplace, we hope, and you got to get there somehow, and you're in the real estate business. Tell us what can you do in the real estate business? Salesman, tell us how to be a salesman. How about that?
Well, everyone is a salesman in the real estate business if they've got their agent's license. But I think probably a better way to describe what a good real estate agent does is that they're a property marketing expert. Essentially, they're going to help a seller either find the best way to sell their property, or they're going to match up a buyer with the right property that's going to fit their needs.
How do you become a salesman? I mean, other than just saying, hey, I want to go to resources, I want to be a salesman.
It's not required, but it's really great to have sales experience in your background. I had actually, my own career started in the technical field working for AT&T Bell Labs as an engineer. But when I got to this point in my life and had a career change opportunity, I had at least 10 to 15 years of sales experience in the mobile industry as well. So I think it's helpful to have that in your background and understanding of customer service. But in terms of just how one becomes a real estate agent or a sales associate with a brokerage, is very simple. You have to take up to 75 hours of instruction.
That's simple?
Well, some may struggle with it, but I found that it was okay. It was very easy for me.
Do you need a high school degree necessarily?
You need a high school diploma,
okay.
75 hours of instruction. You also have to undergo a background check, and you have to pass a state exam. So
you need the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, I guess.
Essentially.
And if you don't, you may not survive in the business very long.
Well, the good news is that a majority of the folks who actually go through the real estate instruction school will probably pass it on their first pass. And if not, they'll get a second chance 30 days later.
So these 75 hours you mentioned, where can you do that? Can you do it like in Brookdale or Monmouth or like Brookdale and Lincroft? Do they have courses that
they do?
That?
There are actually, interestingly enough, there are college level programs designed specifically for real estate. Fairleigh Dickinson is probably the best one known regionally. But you can just go to adult education programs. You can go to Brookdale. You can go to schools.
Like night school at like Long Branch or Shore Regional or someplace like that?
Right, and then there are specific real estate schools.
That's it. But you mentioned that you had a sales background. It seems to me, I do a fair amount of real estate closings, that the realtors that succeeded, I'm not talking about the real estate companies, whether it's Resources or anybody else, it's that the person who's handling that particular transaction has to have the personality and perseverance and drive to get the deal done. And I'm not saying overboard, because sometimes, you know, an agent can be too pushy and say, you know, this is not really the house I want. But a successful one is the one that says, okay, I'm going to find the place that's ideal for you and let you decide.
You know, I would agree with that. I found in my own experience in the business so far is that if you work as a problem solver, instead of kind of like shying away from the difficult challenges, you're going to be much more successful in real estate. And you pointed out a very good word there, persistence. Yeah, because there's a lot of things that happen during a real estate transaction which can become challenging for the buyer, for the seller, even for the attorneys, as you know, and the real estate agent. Sometimes it takes someone who's got the ability to kind of herd all the cats, for lack of a better term, and kind of pull it all together and help the team move it over the goal line, to use a sports metaphor.
Or a home run.
Either way.
Baseball is my favorite. But now you've been in the business how long now, Bob?
Just a little over 2 years.
Over 2 years. Because one of the things that, and I've been doing this for close to 35, but we're about the same age, I guess. The point being, how the whole system has changed. Now, I remember doing a trial once before a judge, and it had to do what we call specific performance, meaning the seller wanted to get out of the deal, and my guy still wanted to go ahead and buy this location. And the judge says, "Oh, I did a lot of closings in my lifetime," and I'm saying to myself, but the whole thing has changed dramatically over the time. So it's not a simple contract, get a mortgage and close. You got inspections, you got COs, you got this, you got that. Some parts have oil tank issues, and now with sandy mold that people get into. I mean, you guys got to learn a lot of stuff.
It's true, but as complicated and as thorough of knowledge that you have to be successful, the good news is that all of these are in place to protect buyers and sellers. And that's really the most important thing. And a good agent will be able to convey, gee, I know you're frustrated that we have to do this or we have to do this way, but here's why. You know, and again, all of these have been put in place to ensure that this is a good transaction and that everyone will be satisfied with it at the end.
You have what tiers do you have? You have the salesperson or the agent, and then the next level is the broker. The broker of record is the one who runs the shop, I guess.
Essentially, well, it can be broken down into 3 tiers. You're right. It's the sales agent, everything from a novice to someone who's been in the business a long time, and then there are some sales agents who decide to get their broker's license, and not necessarily to open their own brokerage, but it's just an added credential that lends credibility, and it does help your practice.
Is that another 75 or 175 hours of training?
It is more instruction, but it's a lot more. Actually, you're required to go through an additional 90 hours of instruction, and you have to have been working under a sales broker for at least 3 years.
Okay.
And on top of those 90 hours that you need, you have to take 2 other courses, totaling 60 hours, about office management and agency ethics. Very important.
So my 175-hour estimate wasn't so bad. It was 90 plus 60. So
it's 150 altogether.
And that's a lot of stuff to do it right.
Correct.
I guess. Now, what about other careers such as real estate rental management? Is that a whole separate thing that you have to go through for licensure purposes, whether it's rental or running a building, for example, as a managing agent?
So, and it's just a fine distinction, but beyond basic licensing, after any continuing education you take on to address a different part of the market is known as a certification.
Okay.
Okay. Also, real estate agents, all real estate agents, including brokers, are required to get 12 credits of continuing education through any 2-year period. Okay. As part of their licensing requirements.
So, for example, what title company recently did one on the new closing statements that are starting this year.
New disclosures.
And so in the room was not just attorneys, you had salespeople there, you had bank people there, because they all want to find out what the new regulations are going to be, again, to protect the consumer. But so now you have, so then other certifications, maybe in appraising, for example?
Appraising, as you had mentioned before, property management. My personal goal is to get my commercial management license as well.
Okay, that would be office buildings, say, or medical complexes and things
Correct.
like that.
A lot of my work is in commercial, distressed, and multifamily investment.
Okay, okay. People looking for good deals.
Everyone's looking for a good deal. Everybody.
A good deal. So. And then so the package there. Well, let me ask you this then. With a commercial certification, does that allow you to do property management, or did you have to do that independent? You had to do that in connection with the commercial end.
So it's good to get both, as a matter of fact. You can just go and get your property management certification, and usually, you know, folks who go that path are usually looking to be hired by a larger commercial management company and act as their property manager for a portfolio of different properties.
Like the ones that I've dealt with they run a apartment complex with, say, 150 units here, 150 units there, and I remember back in the day it was just like anybody else, say you want to collect the rents and do some leases, but now it's a whole another ball game about landlord rights, tenants' rights, and notices, and all the complications on what to do right when you're managing a substantial investment.
I would say good training for that is having paralegal experience, because you're right, you have to have good knowledge of local housing laws, tenants' rights, and it's also very good to have analytical skills, because there's so much more to property management today to understand, you know, the income that's coming in, what the vacancy rates are, and the effective gross income that's being pulled in for each property.
It's funny because I was raised in an urban area, and now living down the shore, you have so many other geographic, not anomalies, but nuances. Like if you go, as a kid in Belmar, you had the summer rentals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, because you had the track, you also had rentals that went to the jockeys, you went to the trainers, and they were all almost like hotels, but they're not. They're really boarding houses, I guess, if you want to call it. And that's a whole nother set of laws that go with that. So, and plus, for example, I had something in Point Pleasant recently where they didn't require a CO on a resale, but it did for a rental. I said, wait a minute. Shouldn't a new owner be equally protected as a renter? You think from a policy standpoint and from a realtor standpoint, you would want to think to do that.
I can confirm that is correct, but they're less stringent for owners than they are for folks who are coming in as tenants.
But it just boggles the mind. But I mean, the whole driving purpose of whether it's the regulations for you or regulations of the physical structure, it's to safety and protect everybody.
Absolutely.
And for example, one of my secretaries says, I am going to hire a plumber. I'm going to hire an electrician. My husband is an accountant. He doesn't know anything about toilet bowls or sinks or anything like that. And not only that, when you're doing in the middle of a closing, you're going to hire a professional to get that plumbing job fixed for that seller, or that needs to be corrected, because you want, number one, that they're licensed, number two, that the town's not going to shut somebody down for bad work. So you yourself now have to have your whole bank of other experts and professionals you have to deal with. So your job isn't just selling stuff. And an old realtor once told me, when the economy's really good, you don't need a real estate license, you're just an order taker. And back in the day, okay? It's like selling land down at the Pinelands, everybody with 6 different owners on the same patch of grass. But we have a little bit of time left. 2 things. Would you recommend this as a career to someone who is, say, just getting out of high school, that would look forward to, say, being on the footlights of Broadway and Long Branch?
Well, I recommend it to anybody who's got a desire to work in this field. They have a strong interest in real estate to begin with. And if they feel that they have a career in sales, it's great background experience as well. And it's something that they can do avocationally as well as a full-time job. Real estate is something, it's one of those careers where you're, for lack of a better term, you're almost an independent contractor. You can make your own hours and you'll be as successful as long as you work.
And I have to say this, in wrapping up, I've represented agents when they were getting stiffed by somebody on a commission, and having gone to the real estate organization down by Menlo Park, and I said, I know what you guys go through, because first of all, everybody sees that number on a commission. It could be 4%, 5%, 6%, but normally it's split. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then when you get down all the way down to who really did all the work, it's split and split and split and split. So you really work a lot to get to whatever you do. So with the little time we have, how'd you get to be Stephen Robert, Bob Goodman, and you got 20 seconds?
I'll explain it real quickly. The Real Estate Commission insists that if you go by a popular name, even if it's your middle name, like I do, you have to give your full name, your full legal name. I guess there were some problems in the past where people were using different names, and that reduced accountability.
Bob Goodman, thank you very much, and very informative. Thanks again, Bob.
Thank you.